All right, welcome everybody to the Lakers Legacy Podcast, where mistletoes, missile woes, because the Lakers stock hung by the fireplace this Christmas is at an all-time low. So don't buy the dip, but maybe it's time to buy some Doge rebuild coin into the future. Maybe, who knows? We'll see. I'm your host, Jonathan Hernandez, and I'm joined by my co-host, Tommy Alexander. And Tommy, quick question for you. Eggnog or hot cocoa with marshmallows during Christmas?
Hot cocoa with marshmallows.
Oh, okay. I am actually more of an eggnog person because I also like that it has alcohol, so that's a little bit more fun. But yeah, I like eggnog. It seems like Tommy is a hot cocoa with marshmallows type of person.
I take a shot of tequila after I drink the hot cocoa.
I guess that balances things out. But in today's episode and this quick segment, we are going to be talking super macro and discuss the state of the Lakers moving forward and whether or not this is the end for LeBron James and AD, or whether or not we're just being overreactionary based off of very recent traumatic events. But let's start here. Um, what are your thoughts on the Lakers trying to trade for a third star at this point? Is it futile in your opinion? Or, as with everything, does it depend on who the third star is? And then, baked into this question, what are your thoughts on trading for 27-year-old Brandon Ingram? Does he solve our problems?
Uh, so yeah, quickly, I think it is futile. I wouldn't do it. And the reason I won't even caveat it with, well, it depends on the start. We're obviously not getting Anthony Edwards. We don't need to caveat it.
Right.
We'll just use common sense. The thing that I'm getting a little frustrated with the way Rob feels the need to caveat everything because it makes his thresholds for whether he's going to do something ambiguous, which I think he likes. But yeah, sure, leaving the door open. Whoa, Anthony Edwards became available for 2 first-round picks. We would be stupid not to do it. Yeah, no shit, right? There's no star you can get for 2 first-round picks who I think would be worth it. And certainly Brandon Ingram, to the extent he is that borderline star, I don't think he's worth it. And it's for a variety of reasons, but one is that one player is not saving this team. Um, and a guy like Brandon Ingram is not so good individually that him coming in is going to fix the deficiencies that we currently have because we have so many.
Yeah, I think Brandon Ingram, it's cool for the full circle poetry of it all to get Brandon Ingram back in a Lakers jersey. And there are times when I watch LeBron James and Anthony Davis lollygagging around out there, and I'm like, oh man, they just need someone to take up usage who will be aggressive, with his own shot. But if I take a zoom out look approach, Tommy, I don't want to trade for the rights to pay Brandon Ingram the 160 to 180 million that he wants over the next 4 years. And he's specifically signed on with Clutch to make sure that he gets most of that money. The New Orleans Pelicans right now are willing to pay him around high 30s, 38, 39. It sounds like his max, by the way, for his first year would be $46 million. I like Brandon Ingram. I can see where he helps, but I don't want to trade a first round pick or even two, especially not two, for the right to have Brandon Ingram on for the next 4 years and be paying him 52, $55 million his age 31 season. Like, just even from
Yeah.
like a team building perspective, that sounds downright scary to me. And so I guess, okay, let's move forward with this question. What's your level of trust in LeBron James and Anthony Davis moving forward with regards to helping this team contend? Are there, if it's not Brandon Ingram, are there marginal upgrades that the Lakers can explore that will be enough to make you trust LeBron James and Anthony Davis? Or should there be a sort of paradigm shift that, maybe Rob has been on this train all along? It just took us a little bit of time. And I'm not saying Rob's been right. I think we're all on the train of Rob kind of wasted the last 2 years of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. But at the same time, two things can be true. Rob did not do his best job to fully equip this team the last 2 years. But at the same time, maybe he's also right about the state of LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and maybe trading a first round pick for Dorian Finney Smith makes no effing sense. So where do you stand on, like, okay, are marginal upgrades enough? And do you trust LeBron James and AD moving forward with regards to helping this team contend?
Um, it's a tricky question. I don't know that this team I guess maybe I'll answer my own question or like my own uncertainty here by saying that like I don't know that LeBron and AD are collectively good enough anymore to be 1-2 guys on a real championship team. It would need you would need like OKC level of depth that they have around like Shea. Like
Mhm.
you would need something like that, right? Not necessarily stars, but like I mean, in a way, something like kind of approximating what we had in 2019, 2020, but maybe even slightly better than that.
Yeah, it has to be. They're not in their prime anymore.
Yeah, yeah, and so, like, it's not that I think, like, LeBron and AD are totally cooked. I mean, LeBron is, very clearly old. I mean, that, I think, has never been more apparent. We've been wondering and wondering, when is he gonna get there, and he's gotten there. But, I think in the right situation, I think we saw this guy take a team to the Western Conference Final. I mean, maybe not take a team is maybe the wrong way of phrasing it, but was a significant contributor to a team that went to the Western Conference Finals a couple years ago with basically playing on one foot. Um, and that's sort of like his impact level right now. He's like a guy playing on one foot essentially. And so I think he can still get there and figure out ways to be effective. 80 is 31 and is just like full of excuses, but he is literally 31. I don't know why he's got all these excuses, but like I think he can still be a really, really good player in the right circumstances. I think the thing though is that like the roster, in my view, requires so much turnover. I it's not just going to be one or two guys change and then here we go, we're on the right path. It's going to require so much turnover that I don't know that we have the assets and draft capital to make it worthwhile to get a team around LeBron and AD that can compete. It doesn't have to be get a star. Um but I don't even think we can get like, enough number 3 through 9 guys, just given the current assets that we have, including our players
Mhm.
and our picks.
I think we have the assets and draft capital. I don't think we have the basketball moneyball minds to accurately assess how those assets go out. But I have some names for you that I want to get your opinion on. But before we get to those names, Tommy, do you know that saying, it's raining cats and dogs?
Yes.
Did you know in the upside down, it actually rains cats and underdogs? Get it? Because it's upside down and underdog. Wait, what were you going to say?
Should be undercats and underdogs.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say underdogs by itself. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it should be undercats and underdogs. Anyways, don't get rained out of all the fantasy betting fun and make sure to check out Underdog Fantasy today.
Hey,
Because Underdog is the place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on two or more players' stats, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. Download the Underdog Fantasy app, sign up, and use code LEGACY and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app, sign up, and use code LEGACY and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Higher or lower, you make the call. Turn every Lakers late defensive rotation into a win with Underdog. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus in Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP, 1-800-639-8783, or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467369. All right, let's take it to our sponsors, and when we return, let's talk about some names. All right, so we are back, Tommy. You mentioned that we almost need to we need to get like the same role players from 2019-20, maybe even better. Another iteration would be like a version of 2023 with better fitting pieces that are more defensive minded, more dogs, more healthy Jared Vanderbilts in some senses. And I actually think the structure of the 2023 trade deadline kind of made sense. Like Mo Bamba, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura, D'Angelo Russell, I worry, Tommy, about doing the thing that we've always done, where it's like over course correcting too much the other way.
yeah,
And all of a sudden, now we're going to have no skilled players, but everybody's like a dog. And
yeah,
we're just going to get people ejected every night. You know what I'm like? Okay, that's not also what I'm talking about.
yeah,
Like it's okay to have one D'Angelo Russell and then flank everybody else around him with, Isaiah Stewart's, and people are gonna be like, of course you want to keep D'Angelo Russell. Okay, it's okay to have one Austin Reeves and flank everybody else around him with Isaiah Stewart's, Larry Nance's. So like, let's say I'm just pickpocketing from different teams. Let's say the Lakers somehow, with all the assets that they have, can get Isaiah Stewart, Cam Johnson, Jay Sean Tate, Larry Nance. These are all dogs who've got grit and fight, but they also have some skill to them as well. So they're not as one dimensional as a Jared Vanderbilt. Is that enough? Like those templates of players, are those enough to wake Anthony Davis and LeBron James up in your eyes?
So I think yes, and I think the big key though, and you kind of alluded to this with the comment about like I don't know that we have the assessment abilities to find these margin type upgrades, and I don't know that these guys are margin type upgrades because they're known commodities for the most part. But you know, it's not, and again to your point on the over course correcting, it's not just that we need guys who are going to hustle. We don't necessarily just need a team of 8 Traoris, next to LeBron and
Yeah,
AD.
no, we do not.
It has to be
We
a
don't. We don't even need a team of like 8 Max Christie's because God, we would turn the ball over every single possession.
right, exactly. So, my point is like you have to be able to understand who's giving you effort and who's giving you effort with results. And that's like always been
Hmm.
the Russell Westbrook problem. Nobody would doubt that,
Correct.
that guy gives supreme effort. Even to this day, I mean, I don't know how old he is, but to this day, when he comes in, he is giving effort. However, that effort is often misguided and doesn't lead to results on either end, mind you. Like, he's not a good defender, although he sometimes gets talked about like he is because he plays hard. He's obviously not an effective offensive player anymore, because of sort of his physical limitations at this stage in his career. So it's not just like we need dogs, we need effort guys. We need guys who are actually producing results. And like one common thread of all the guys you just listed is you could look at any advanced defensive metrics and overall game impact metrics, and you will see it is a very clear conclusion that all of these guys are impacting the floor. Isaiah Stewart is known for hustle and being like, I think it's easy to look at that guy and be like, oh, he's like Gen Z run our test, or, something like, he's just like a Ron Artest is actually a bad example because he was actually good, but those like 90s, early 2000s guys who like, were just like goons and their
Hmm.
teams would put them in just to go beat somebody up for no reason. Like it's easy to think of Isaiah Stewart in that vein. Isaiah Stewart is literally one of the best rim protectors in the entire NBA. And if
Yeah, at
you
6'8", it's
at
crazy.
6'8", and if you looked at the numbers, you would know that. I don't know if anyone on our team is looking at the numbers. That's kind of part of the problem we're going to have here, but like all of those guys you just listed, the reason I think it would turn us over is not just because at a superficial level they fit the archetype we're looking for, but they are actually providing the impact that we're looking for. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I do think that like that kind of thing could turn this team around and leave us with some pieces, that are going to, can stick around and be part of like a go forward culture.
Yeah, so to that point, let's say the Lakers are willing to trade their first round pick. Let's say they're even willing to trade both first round picks. I think you're in agreement with me that we need to move past the Dorian Finney Smiths, Bruce Browns of the world. Unless you can get them for seconds, sure, why not? But I, are you? I think you agree with me. Dorian Finney Smith, Bruce Brown, Jonas Valanciunas, yes, they would help right now, but it feels futile to me. Are you in the same sort of mindset?
Yes.
Yeah, we maybe we make use of them for 1 year, but then what the heck do we do after that? And we're now out a first round pick. If we trade one or both of the first round picks, I almost want a better version of what the Mavericks did with Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. They got them kind of at their prime. They were both 25 years old. I would just hope for better prospects because our firsts are better than the first that the Mavericks traded to get those two guys. So do you have any names of young players? Isaiah Stewart's a good one, but I would also hope for a more premier young name. Do you have any names of any young players that you'd be willing to trade that first for or both first for in a package where it's almost like I don't want to say hedging, but it is kind of hedging because I think Actually, I don't think it's hedging anymore. I think if you get a young player, that does not mean that you're not competing for the now. You just need to get the wrong. You just need to get the right young player, because at this point, given LeBron James and Anthony Davis' state, physically, age wise, etc., like we do need like that mid 20s player to help now, but also help bridge the gap for when LeBron retires, maybe as soon as this next year. So, do you have any names of like youngish sort of players? They don't necessarily have to be all stars. They can be still be on their rookie contract or be on their next contract or maybe heading into restricted free agency. Are there any names that you would find worth it that are, better than Daniel Gafford or PJ Washington or even another PJ Washington, whatever?
So I don't have any, so I don't want to waste too much time because I'm sure you have a lot, but you have a good list. But the yeah, general archetype, or maybe not archetype is the wrong word, but the general type of guy would be somebody in that like, and I'm not saying, I'm just using this guy as an example. I don't want this guy, but like, somebody like a Jonathan Kaminga, like who's in that like
Uh,
3 to 4 year of experience range, like young 20s, relatively recent lotto pick, who has some circumstance that has sort of like handicapped them a little bit. Like, you think his thinking historically, like obviously the easy example is James Harden. When he got traded from OKC to Houston, he
mhm.
was a bench player in OKC, but flash potential. And I certainly was watching a lot of basketball at that time, and I thought Harden was good, even from Arizona, his college days. But uh, I did not think that James Harden was going to have this kind of career at that time. But that's sort of the model. It's like a team that has this third, fourth year guy that they're maybe not ready to commit the next big contract to. And they're trying to move on and maybe develop, maybe in 2 years after they drafted this guy, they draft another guy at a position of need, and at the same, sorry, same position. And now they have a redundancy. Somebody who
Mhm.
sort of fits that general mold, I think would be somebody I'd be looking at.
Well, I've got the exact trade package for you. And I just want to make it clear these are not realistic trade packages. We're not talking about feasible logistics, not even talking about matching salaries. I'm just talking about types of players, player value here. Ideally, what kinds of young players who are either still on their rookie deals or about to exit out of their rookie deals that the Lakers should pursue to help now, but more importantly, help later as well. So, to your point about James Harden not knowing who he actually is, what his ceiling is, and that I think it was he signed for free agency. But what if we went to the Brooklyn Nets, Tommy, gave them both first? Okay, that's a steep price, but we gave them both first for Nick Claxton, 25 years old. He signed on for the next 4 years. Yes, he's making $28 million this year, but his salary actually declines, where his fourth year is $21 million. That's the kind of contract that you want. Nick Claxton, and then you get Cam Thomas, number 27th pick of the 2021 draft. This is a bit of a risk because Cam Thomas is kind of like a souped up Jordan Clarkson, but maybe he still has upside. And you're kind of trading for the rights to pay him his next $25 million contract. So it's a bit risky. But let's say Nick Claxton, Cam Thomas, and they throw in Noah Clowney, clutch client, number 21 pick of the 2023 draft, versatile forward. Do you like that sort of framework?
That sort of framework I'm generally into. I mean, the hesitation with Cam Thomas is like we've been burned famously the last like 3-ish years by one-way players. And so,
Yeah.
we need to see something. I would at least need to see something in the numbers suggesting that like Cam doesn't need to be an elite defensive player, but he needs to be able to compete on that end a little bit.
That's fair. Okay, let's move on to this one. Chicago Bulls. This one is more established players, but it and young enough that you're like, okay, I can see how this works. Maybe not for two first. Let's say like a unprotected 2029 pick. Chicago Bulls, Kobe White, Io DeSunmu, Jalen Smith.
Yeah, although I would argue that would probably take 2 first because Kobe
Yeah,
White,
maybe. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Kobe White is really good. And I don't think the Bulls are itching to get rid of him. But yeah, that exactly is the type of thing that I'm thinking of. Kobe White, good example. Like he's started to emerge in Chicago now, but his first few years, or at least his first 2 years, yeah, I don't know. I mean, certainly his rookie year, I remember we played the Bulls and I was like, this guy does not even look like an NBA player. And he went from that to being like a legit two-way guy. I mean, he scores like almost 20 a game. He's one of the best perimeter defenders. or can be one of the best perimeter defenders in the league. Dosunmu plays defense. Jalen Smith obviously
Yep.
plays defense. That's the kind of move that I would be okay using picks on because those guys are fairly young, and certainly in the case of Dosunmu and Kobe White, like you can hold on to those guys post LeBron.
Yep. Yeah, they are all 24 years old. Sorry, my dog does not like the Chicago Bulls deal, so I guess I'll have to move on. What about to the Utah Jazz for Walker Kessler, 23 years old, number 22 pick in the 2022 draft. Everybody knows Walker Kessler. Let's say we give them both firsts, and we also get Keontae George, 21 years old. Now, you may say the Utah Jazz don't want to get rid of Keontae, but I have listened to their fan base enough to know that they're kind of out on him this year because he's been very turnover prone. His shot selection hasn't been great, and so there's like a what's it called, a chipping in the ceramics here with regards to Keontae George. And so and they're just they're just trying to rebuild. They can go so many different number of ways, but if we give them 2 first round picks and we can get a Walker Kessler and Keontae George. Now, I have worries about taking on such inexperienced players. But if you're feeling a little bit risky, what are your thoughts on Walker Kessler and Keontae?
Uh, so again, and maybe this is going to be a controversial take, but I think I would do that like no questions asked.
Mm,
Simply because, like, Walker Kessler, first of all, he's young, but second of all, like, he is elite defensively. So not only is he gonna hustle, like, okay, yeah, he's a big lumbering guy. He's like 7'1", like a legit 7'1". So like he's not gonna be the fastest guy on the court. He's not gonna be beating Isaiah Stewart in a sprint. But he plays hard and he plays the right way and he plays really smart. And from an impact perspective, he is like literally, I mean, Anthony Davis, Mr. Defensive Player of the Year snub. Walker Kessler is a much more impactful defensive player, certainly at protecting the rim, right? Maybe I won't compare perimeter defense, but certainly at protecting the rim and as a team defender, one of the best in the entire NBA is like a 22-year-old. Not to mention he's extremely strong on the boards, gobbles up rebounds, and is just like a big physical body. Everyone wants to pretend like the NBA is moving away from size. We are constantly getting killed by size, so somebody should like tell us, like clearly maybe we're the only franchise that thinks the NBA is moving away from size. Because like other teams are pounding us in the paint. And
yeah.
the thing I like about Kessler is again, whether it's 2024 and we have LeBron and AD, or it's 2029 and we're like well past a LeBron AD world, Walker Kessler anchors any of those defenses. And
Yeah.
so that's like something you can't ignore. That in and of itself, like you hope that one of those picks that we would give up would be somebody even close to Walker Kessler. But you don't know that. So that's why I think at least one for him. And then yeah, if you can get Keontae George, he's somebody that we wanted a lot during the draft process. Dynamic guard, obviously has to develop. It needs time, but I don't know that we're winning a championship this year. I'll go out on a limb and say that.
That's true. Yeah.
So maybe at least it will feel a little bit less futile in that sense if we're developing a piece for the future. And I also think that I don't know what he's looked like in the NBA, but certainly coming out of college, he had plenty of defensive upside too.
Yeah, and he went a pick before the Lakers selected JHS. So there it is. Last one for you. This one's a little bit, I don't know, a little bit more grounded, with some older prospects or just one older prospect. But the New Orleans Pelicans, I don't know if we'd have to give up both first. Maybe give up a first and Austin Reeves or someone like that. But the Pelicans for Herb Jones and Jordan Hawkins.
Um, yeah, I would do this. And I've texted a little bit about this offline, but like an Austin Reeves for Herb Jones type of swap, I think makes a lot of sense right now. Um, this is the type of example where like teams in our position kind of have to be looking out for stuff like this. And by stuff like this, I mean like moves where you are arguably dropping overall talent, but you're obtaining talent that is just so much harder to obtain. Austin Reeves is a very, very good player. Yeah, you put him in the right situation. I mean, on frankly, on this team, you put him off the bench, he could be a top 5 to 10 bench player in the league, and in a year, maybe this year, he could be like a six man of the year type of
Mm,
impact player in that sense. But Herb Jones is like a 6'6", 6'7" wing with long arms who showed last year he could hit a three. He rebounds, he plays very effective defense. He's like a known defensive stopper whose defensive metrics like test through the roof. Um, it's so much harder to find that archetype on a reasonable deal than it is to find somebody like Austin. And this
Yeah.
is the peak of Austin's value right now. He has a team acquiring him gets him not just for the remainder of this season as they try to make a push for the playoffs or a push in the playoffs, but they also get him for a fully guaranteed year next year. He's never going to have more value than he has, at this deadline, I would say. So, or right now, really. So, like, Austin, really, really, really solid player, but if you can get somebody like a Herb Jones, that's like a culture type of piece. You find the stars, you find the offensive players in free agency. It's like it's as we've proven to ourselves in the last 3 years or so, it's not that hard to find one-way guys. It's hard to find two-way guys. So get the two-way
Yeah.
guys you can, and everything else should fall into place. And I feel like Hawkins very similar. I don't know how well he's been doing. I with the Pelicans this season, or if he's doing well, I would imagine they don't want to trade him. But a guy who came out of college as a defender who could hit threes, and we know what kind of success he had in college, and so again, skill sets that are hard to develop, and in both of those cases, you never know whether your pick is going to be Cooper Flag or the guy who went 6 picks after Cooper Flag, and so from that perspective, it's like a very high likelihood that you're not going to get a Herb Jones or Jordan Hawkins using one of those first in the future anyway.
Yeah, Jordan Hawkins this year, he's a little bit banged up right now, but 13 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, hitting two threes a game, albeit 33%. He shot 36% from three last year, hitting 1.6 a game. But you know his player profile, right? He's the type of guy that you want slotted next to a Herb Jones type player. And honestly, Herb Jones and Dalton Connect would be absolutely dynamic. That's the type of player you want to saddle Dalton Connect with. And honestly, Herb Jones and Austin Reeves would pair very well together as
Yeah,
well. If the Lakers can get it done without giving up Austin Reeves and they'll take an unprotected 2029 first, I would do this deal all day. I just feel like if Herb Jones were made available, other teams would as well. So
yeah,
that's the problem with a lot of these hypotheticals. But this is sort of just an exercise regarding the types of young players that we think would be worth giving up the first for because it not only fulfills the now, but more importantly, and it's sad that I'm saying more importantly, but more importantly, it fulfills our needs for later as well, which sadly I think we have to start preparing for sooner rather than later. All right, that'll do it for this quick episode, quick segment. And yeah, Tommy, happy holidays, and we'll catch you next time.
peace.
Laters.